All right, let's look at some selection tools. Okay, we'll be needing those. And we can work on top of this red-eyed tree frog.psd that you should find included on Blackboard by the video. So the main, I'm in the essentials workspace. So yours should look like mine. And and if the toolbar is a single row, I usually make it a double row just by clicking on this little thing. So up here, the top two rows have all the selection tools along with the move tool there. Okay, so we'll be mostly concentrating in this area. So if you click down the upper right one, you get the rectangular marquee tool and the elliptical marquee tool. Okay, these are our two most basic kinds of selections. And there's these two single rows that aren't so useful, but let's just start with the elliptical first. Okay, so if I just click and drag, it makes an ellipse, right? And if I hold down Shift, it constrains it to a circle. Okay. If I hold down Shift and Alt, it centers out on the first point I drew rather than dragging, rather than kind of having the upper left, assuming I'm dragging down to the right. Okay, so Alt centers it. Okay, Shift constrains it. Just showing you a couple of things you can do with your non-mouse hand. The other thing you can do is, in conjunction or not with those other keys, is if I'm creating a selection and if I hold down the space bar, it goes into moving the selection around. And then when I let go of the space bar, it goes back to creating it or scaling it. All right, so let's try. We'll go through and make some changes to the document as we go along using selections, and then we'll hand it in at the end. So let's try to put the circle right on the red part of the frog's eye. Okay, so we can change the color of it. So I'm using spacebar to move it over there. And then, sorry, I fumbled that. Moving spacebar to move it over there, and then dragging it, spacebar to reposition it, dragging it. Okay, so I'm just trying to get on the colored part. Now, if you can't get it perfect, you can always go Select, Transform Selection. And that gives you like a bounding box that you can adjust as needed. All right, and this gives you that little check or the yes or no thing, check or no at the top. So if you want to accept the transform, you say check. All right, so I'm just going to say that's good enough. And let's change his eye color to maybe match his feet. So let's go Image, Adjustments, Hue Saturation, and just change the hue until it's more of an orange color. Okay. And then if we want to get out of the selection, most of the time you could just click on the background. In certain situations, that won't work to drop the selection like that. So you can always go Select, Deselect. Okay, under Select in the main menu, there's various controls related to selection. So we can go Deselect. All right. So let's look at this toolbar up here. Okay, it's present with every selection tool. Okay, I'm going to go to the rectangular marquee tool for this. Now, first off, you see these things that look like little Boolean operators up there, like adding to or subtracting from selection. So normally, if I create a selection, right, it just drops the previous one. It always creates a new one. If I go to add, okay, now I'm adding to the selection. All right. And by the way, if you're on the regular one and you hold Shift down, it goes to the add one, which can be somewhat confusing if you're trying to use Shift to constrain the creation of an object like a rectangle to a square, the creation of a selection, I mean, or an ellipse to a circle. But as long as you hold the right thing down first, it's actually not a conflict. Okay. All right, so I added 2. I can go and subtract from the selection like this. Okay. And and by the way, you can also switch between selection tools. So like right now I'm in subtract from. If I go to the elliptical marquee tool, okay, the Booleans are it doesn't stick with the one you were on. It's unique to each selection tool. So let's say I want to add a circle to this selection. Okay. And if I want to subtract a circle from it, whatever. Okay. And this one here is intersect, right? So like if I only want to show the areas where the new selection, the old selections intersect, okay? And so that's the selection I made just by using these Boolean operators up here. I'm going to go back to create new for both of those so I don't forget. And select, deselect, okay? Now, let me just change my background color so it shows more when I drag that thing. And then there's feather, okay? So normally, okay, there's no, it's a hard edge on the selection. But if I change the feather to, say, 20, okay, now it will only put a feather on a selection that's already made. Okay, this one, if I go and drag it now, you'll see that it doesn't have a selection. Okay, but if I make a new selection with a feather set to 20, okay, and you can tell when a rectangle has a feather on it because the corner looks rounded like that. See, there's a 20 pixel, okay, feather, soft edge. And you can make it whatever number you want. And you can also mix together feathered and unfeathered selections. Like if I put this back to 0, okay, and go back to add to my selection and throw in some rectangles. Okay, so you can see that there's feathered and unfeathered selections there. Kind of interesting. Select, deselect. We also have here, I'm back in the rectangular marquee tool. For style, I'm not sure how important this is to you, but fixed ratio. If I always want it to be 1 by 1, it's going to be a square even without holding shift down. Or 1 by 2, it's always going to have that proportion. Or fixed size, okay? So the default is a 64 pixel square, and you can see I can put that wherever I want, but it's only going to be that exact size. Normally, you want it on normal, okay? I think that's all we need to look at up on the top here. Let me change this to an elliptical marquee tool. If they're anti-alias, right, that's when you have pixels, the colors blend between the new color and whatever's behind it, right, along a curve. It's when you're in the rectangular marquee tool, it's grayed out because vertical and horizontal lines don't have anti-aliasing, right? But if you go to a circle that's curved, then that's there. So usually you just leave that on. There might be some situations where the anti-aliasing could create some unwanted halo on your edges or something like that. But okay, let's look at the lasso tools. Okay, so that's down here. And if you click and hold down on it, you'll see there's the lasso tool, the polygonal lasso tool, and the magnetic lasso tool. Okay, the lasso tool I use quite a lot, but just to grab something and move it somewhere else, like onto another document. Like if I wanted this eye on some other document, I just go like, well, wouldn't have to be that sloppy, I suppose. just grab the eye and just, drag it to wherever you want it to be. And it's just, I use it just for quick forgetting something. And here you can see also that it has these Boolean things. And frequently I might make some complex selection with the magic wand or something like that. And then I use the Booleans along with the lasso tool to kind of clean up any places I missed. The polygonal lasso tool, okay, I probably, for making complex selections, I probably use a little bit more than the regular lasso tool, because the regular lasso tool, when you let go of it, it closes. Okay, so but the polygonal lasso tool, it doesn't. Okay, so I can click along, but it makes straight lines. Okay, however, if you hold down the Alt key, it acts like the regular lasso tool, right? But it doesn't automatically close when you let go of the mouse. Right? So sometimes you have to double click to close it. So sometimes I find the polygonal lasso tool to be more useful. Let's see. And then finally, we have the magnetic lasso tool. Okay, so this tries to follow an edge automatically. And you'll notice there's a few other controls here. The width is how wide a change of pixels is viewed as a edge. Okay, so like for example, if you look at this edge here between this orange color and the black, the edge is probably 1, 2, 3, about 4 or 5 pixels wide. Okay, but some other areas maybe are softer, and like this between the whitish and the blue is a lot of pixels. So you might need to adjust the width, and the contrast is how big of a difference between the two sides of the edge. Okay, and usually you don't need to adjust the width and contrast. Frequency is how quickly it drops points. Okay, so I'm just going to try selecting along frog's foot here, and it'll go something like this. Now, if you're going along and you make a mistake like this, you can actually hit delete and it will back up. Okay, see how it's deleting points? Come on. There we go. So I'm going along like this. Just going to go around it kind of quickly. So let's say I'm trying to get the orange part of his foot. All right, not bad. And then I could, like if I wanted to fix something like here, I kind of missed a bit of it. I could go to the regular lasso tool, add to selection. Maybe do that. Okay, if I wanted to subtract a little bit from the selection like here. Okay, so you can fine tune your selections. All right, so that's our lasso tools. Let's look at over here. We have the quick selection tool, the magic wand tool, okay, and the object selection tool. Most old school at the bottom, a few years old in the middle, and new at the top. Okay, so the magic wand. Let's do the quick selection tool first. Being an old dog that doesn't like to use new tricks, I kind of was a little bit skeptical about this thing at first, but I have been using it. I kind of like the magic wand, but I've been using this a fair amount, and it's pretty good. Let's see. So when you're in the quick selection tool, right, you like drag over an area with it. It's like a brush, and it looks at the areas you're dragging over and tries to find similar contiguous areas and spread to fill them. All right, so like, for example, if I go like this, see, it's sensing that I want the orange stuff and did a pretty good job. All right. And it has a minus and a plus next to it. If I wanted, I could try getting rid of some of this here if I got too much. And go back to the plus, maybe get a little bit more here. And you can also use the magic wand, or sorry, the lasso tool to clean some stuff up. All right, let's use that tool and try to change the frog's foot color. Let's make it red or something like that. Let's see here. We'll just do image adjustments again. On the next one, we'll try an adjustment layer. Hue saturation. Maybe I'll go more red with it, something like that. All right. Let's try the magic wand now. Okay. So the magic wand tool, if you click with it, it spreads out to the limits of its tolerance. Now, I'm not sure, mine's on 20. I'm not sure what number yours will be on. I'm putting this back on create new selection each time. And if the tolerance goes up, the tolerance goes up to 255. So if you set on 255, it should select every pixel on the canvas. If you turn it down to 1, it's only going to get the exact color that you land on. So in a photo like this, you'll probably get like 1 pixel or maybe 4 or something. Okay. So if I want to, let's say I want to get all of the green on the frog, I could try increasing the tolerance. Let's go up to 40. Okay. And usually you want to click on sort of a medium tone also. Now, one thing here is contiguous, which is important. Right now, it's spreading out till it reaches the limits of its tolerance, and that's it. It's contiguous, like the lower contiguous 48 states, right? But if I turn it off, it will find all similar colors anywhere on the canvas, okay? So if I make this like 64 or something, turn off contiguous, I got a lot of the frog, all right? And I can, let's see if we can get all of the frogs green, okay? So I'm gonna go to add to selection. I'm keeping contiguous turned off. Whoa, okay, so there's green down here on the rock, which that did not work too good. So let me put contiguous back on. And I'm clicking, I'm in add here. So it's a little bit tough to do it this way, but it's maybe working out okay. Maybe I'll go back to my lasso tool and use, I'm going to put it to add. And see all these little holes in here? That's places where it was probably too light or too dark. So I'm going to go around them. See if I can get rid of all the holes in the selection. And then subtract from the selection. I probably could have done a better job on the lasso, on the magic wand to start with, but I'm cleaning it up. All right, so now one thing of interest here that we can do, let me get some more screen down here. Let's see how this works. Now I mentioned before that when you're creating a selection, the feather only works on pixels that you haven't selected yet, right? So However, you can add a feather after you've made a selection. If I go select, modify, and feather, I should be able to put a feather on here, okay? So first off, let's just say if I pull this out, it looks like that, right? Just to see. So if I go select, where am I? Modify, feather, and let's make, say, 5 pixels so we can get this a little softer. See that? See how it has a softened edge now? So let's make an adjustment layer and give him like a gold skin or something like that. So I'm going to go down to my adjustment layers down here. How about hue saturation? And up here, I'm going to change the hue. Something crazy looking like that.